Now that you have successfully rendered the cup and the ground, it is time to add the gumballs to complete the shot. This time you export the geometry directly to a USD file, then reference that back into the stage. For animated pieces like the gumballs, this works better when rendering with motion blur, since the motion is already cached. After the gumballs are in place, you will need to set up and assign a new material. So here we are back at the Solaris level. Now we have to unpin this view here so that we can click on here and go to the object level and go and get our gumballs. So our gumballs are still here. They're still animated in relation to this, and we'll work with those accordingly. So we're going to jump into the gumball where we have the file cache here. We're going to add a USD file export node. We're going to place that down, set its display flag. Let's go to frame 1 for that. Okay. So we're going to call the file here gumballs. And we're going to just change this to /geo/os just to make sure that that is doing its thing. Then on the export tab, we're going to go with the current frame range of 1 to 72. And we're going to set the file here to say USD, so it'll go into a USD directory, and we're going to call it gumballs USD. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to save to disk. Does a little bit of thinking on it, and we've essentially got that ready. So now let's go back a couple levels to the stage. And what we're going to do is we're going to go tab reference. We're going to put a node down here. We're going to get from disk in the USD directory the gumballs USD. And we're going to feed that into the geo merge. So if we set the display flag there, we go to, let's say, frame. Now you'll notice the materials are lost. We probably want to set that up on the material linker rather than the map merge, because that way we get our texture back. Okay, we're going to go back to the reference node, and we're going to, under primitive path, we're going to go /geo/ source name. And so the gumballs are in the geo just like everything else. And we're looking at a frame. Let's go maybe a couple frames more, and there we go. The balls are doing their thing, and notice that the motion blur is working properly. Okay, so now we're going to just go up to here, and we're going to alt drag the cup material and feed that in, and we're going to change the name of that to gumballs mat. Okay, so we're not going to do anything too crazy with that. We're just going to change the metalness. So, well, before we do that, let's go down to the material linker, and we've got the gumballs mat, and we've got the gumballs, and let's assign those there. And they get all shiny now. What we want to do is go back to here, maybe change the metalness to 0.8 to give it a unique sort of look there. And under specular, maybe just, let's go with a roughness of 0.5. Okay, so that just smooths things out a little bit. Okay, so here we have everything. Okay, so here we have the network with everything. We can go right back to the lighting here at the end to see all of that working together. And if we want to tweak some of that, we can actually right-click on here and type mixer, light mixer, and we're going to put a node down, set the display. Now, this should have 3 tabs in there, so we're just going to click on the transform, and that'll kick that other tab in there. And what you can do is you can take these 2 lights here, take these 2 lights here and drag them over to get these sliders, which let you to control the intensity of that light, which it's a little hard to do there. Probably want to go to the attributes tab here and maybe set that to 600. That'll be a little stronger. Or maybe set that to 300 to go a little darker. So you've got some options there in terms of setting that. You can also do something called soloing. So I can say, well, what's the contribution of the point light 1 and what's the contribution of point light 2? And you can see what those contributions are to your final scene. And again, we're going to go Shift F1 to hide that sort of getting in the way. So there we go. So we've got this light mixer which allows you to make adjustments on top of the lighting that we already had, but to think of it in a holistic way of how is all of that working. And we just click on that again if we want to return to the light not being soloed. Okay, so now we want to get ready to render, so we're going to go Tab, Karma Setup, and we're going to click down, and we're going to wire this in. And this uses slightly different settings, so we want to go back to XPU on that to make sure that we're getting the faster render in there. And if we want the denoiser, we have to go Filters and say NVIDIA denoiser. So before we were using the settings in the viewport itself, now we need to use the settings on this node in order to get that ready for rendering. So once we have that, we're going to go back to this, and we're going to change this to, in the render directory, we're going to render gumballs. And then we're going to go $F2, which means it's a frame number but with a padding of 2.exr. Probably a good idea to save your work at this point. Just organize this. Probably put this back up there. Okay, so now we're going to go to the USD render ROP node. And this one we're going to say, give me a specific frame range. And we're basically set up. It's XPU. We're ready to go. And all we need to do at this point is go render to disk. And that's going to bring up this render sort of widget here. And we'll follow along with that to see how the rendering goes. So I'm going to fade away, and then I'll fade back, and we'll have more of the rendering in place. And we'll review it in the mplay renderer. Okay, so once the rendering is complete, you can get it by going render mplay load disk files. Okay, so we put these in the render directory. Let's grab them and go load. Let's just bring this window down here, and we can see the final result. And there we have the gumballs falling in and falling out, just like we set them up. They're now rendered with materials and textures. Excellent. Well, we're almost finished, except, well, what happens if the client decides to make a change? Let's take a look at how you would implement a change in this scene and deal with all the flow of information throughout that scene. Okay? See you in the next lesson.